tired of me as Elsie caught my arm and dragged me out of the flow. "Lovely," I said weakly, "and Dahlia certainly made a large bride. I need to run along now. Your mother was acting awfully peculiar, wasn't she? I don't know when I've seen her seconds shy of being late for a wedding, and then to look like she dressed in the dark. Did she hear bad news about kinfolk? Did that cousin of hers in Texarkana finally die and leave her something?" "I don't know, but I'm sure we'll all hear the details." I squirmed free and fled to the front lawn. As far as I could tell, there had been no explosion of crime in Maggody, Arkansas during the last hour. Then again, a goodly portion of the 755 residents had been at the wedding. The rest of them were doing what they usually did, which wasn't much of anything. The hippies who owned the Emporium hardware store were out back unloading crates. A drunk was slumped in the doorway of the pool hall down the road, oblivious to the hound sniffing at his shoe with wicked intentions. A car was parked in front of Roy Stiver's antique store, above which I resided in grimy, isolated splendor in what was quaintly called an efficiency apartment. Catty-cornered to that, the red-bricked PD sat serenely in the midst of its weedy, unpaved parking lot, the yellow gingham curtains flapping in the autumn breeze. I headed for it to check for messages from the dispatcher in the sheriff's office. After I'd assured her that it had been a lovely ceremony, she made it clear that nobody had anything to convey to the Maggody chief of police, being me, and most likely wouldn't any time soon, since the sheriff had gone fishing, and the deputy left in charge had started a poker game in the locker room. Which was okay with me. I settled back in my cane-bottomed chair, propped my feet on the corner of the desk, and allowed myself the minor pleasure of replaying the highlights of the wedding ceremony. The demands of my position were typically no more rigorous than this, although we'd had a few upsets since I'd slunk back home to sulk after a nasty divorce. Back home from Manhattan, for those unschooled in Maggodian lore, and within shouting range of my mother, the infamous Rubella Belinda Hanks. Not that she shouted all that much. She preferred oblique barbs about my appearance being dowdy enough to put off any man worth his mettle, about my disinclination to socialize with same, and particularly about my smart mouth and woeful lack of respect, especially when she and Estelle went out of their way to help me solve crimes. Lucky me. She was shouting this time, however, as the door banged open and she whirled into the room like a dust devil. "You ain't gonna believe this. I couldn't believe my eyes, and I had to get out my glasses to make sure of what it said." She banged down an envelope and put her hands on her hips. Everything about her was a twitter, from her suspiciously blonde curls to her grandmotherly face and short, stubby body. She looked like a respectable matron of some 50-odd years. The precise number was an issue of debate, but there was something about her that kept the would-be rowdies at the bar and grill, and yours truly, leery of pushing her beyond some hazy limit. I cautiously picked up the envelope and noted the return address. Prodding, Polk, and Fleekum Marketing Associates had a Madison Avenue office, the location not too far from where my ex had toiled with clients during the day and embroiled with female friends in the evenings. Only in retrospect had I realized his office was the only one equipped with a sofa bed. "Why are they writing you?" I asked, not yet courageous enough to take out the letter. "Because I won a contest, that's why." Ruby B. snatched the envelope from me, pulled out the letter, and made a major production of squinting and blinking at it, no doubt aware that she'd gotten me curious and was in a position to make me suffer. "That's nice," I said with a yawn. "It was a lovely ceremony, don't you think? Dahlia's dress must have taken 20 yards of fabric, but—" "A national cook-off contest, if you must know. I read about it in one of my magazines and upped and decided to enter just as a lark. I used my chocolate chip bundt cake recipe, the one you get all slobbery over, and just threw in a cup of crazy coconuts so it'd qualify." "A cup of what?" Ruby B. shot me a look meant to discourage jocularity.